Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest on the very stormy conditions that we have seen over the past few days. That is going to continue as we head into the new working week. Of course, we had Storm Eowyn as we headed through Friday into Saturday. We've got another storm now, Storm Herminia, which we did look at in detail yesterday, and we are going to see the most severe impacts, at least for the UK, associated with this storm over the coming hours through Sunday night into Monday. Now look at the latest live radars. We can see the initial weather fronts associated with Herminia are now moving in. We'll look at the latest weather warnings. We still have numerous yellow warnings issued over the coming days, but in contrast to Eowyn, these warnings are much further southwards, so we're going to impact much of southern England and South Wales, whereas Eowyn, of course, was focused much further northwards. We'll look at the latest UKV, look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, of course, focusing on the very stormy conditions, but also the fact that it is going to turn chillier, but also drier as we see high pressure building in later on this working week. And then we'll have a look at the latest from the longer range, because of course, as we've noted over the past few days, high pressure does look like it will dominate the last couple of days of January and into the start of February. Now the latest runs are actually trying to build it to more of a Scandinavian high, which has produced some very cold runs from some operational runs and from some ensemble members. Now at the moment, I'm not going to say that there's a lot of confidence in that, just because we've had this sort of scenario numerous times in the last couple of weeks and has never really gained traction. So perhaps could this be another bluff, or could something be on the horizon? We'll check that out in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy the videos, which you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now if you start on the live radar, you can see we've got the weather fronts associated with Storm Herminia moving in at the moment, and you can see the same precipitation falling across parts of North England, Northern Ireland, Scotland. You can see this weather front arcs all the way down towards Spain and Portugal. This whole length of precipitation, that is all associated with Herminia. It's a massive storm system sat out in the Atlantic. It's a much larger system than Eowyn was on Friday. It's got a much larger wind field than Eowyn, but it's not quite as severe, so much more spread out impacts. But as I said, they still could be really lively and disruptive in places, especially overnight tonight. Now, if you do look at the latest precipitation, lots of heavy rain clearing north and eastwards as I'm recording this around 3 p.m. So all areas seeing a good half an inch to inch of rain. Some really quite heavy pulses within this. Some even squally bandings moving through southern England there. And even a bit of snow for southern Scotland and northern England. We have got a pretty cold air mass over the top of us, but it's not quite cold enough for sort of low-lying snow or proper snow to sort of moderate hills. It's just cold enough to keep it low single digits with cold rain. Mainly those dew points are slightly too high, or we probably would see a bit more mixing around. We are seeing clearings behind the main precipitation band, but we are seeing a lot of heavy thundery showers packing in behind, and that will continue through this evening. And then overnight tonight, in around the late evening hours into the early hours of Monday, there could be a real massive disturbance in the far southeast, where we see another low pressure system develop within the main flow of Herminia, which is likely to develop some torrential precipitation in the far southeast, and potentially locally some very severe gusts, 70 or even 80 miles per hour, which for the southeast could be very disruptive. And at the moment, yellow warnings issued. But if the next couple of hours we see a bit more confidence in both the live observations and the latest midday runs, wouldn't be surprised to see an amber warning issued in this spot. But it is getting pretty late now for that to be issued. Now, do look at the latest temperatures. You can see it is pretty cold at the moment. We are seeing milder air moving in with Herminia, but it is still cold at the surface. Close to low single digits, or if not freezing, across many northern areas, and further southwards, a little bit of yellows mixing in, so maybe up towards 7 or 8 degrees, but most still low single digits. So lots of very cold rain out there through the rest of this afternoon into the evening. Now, if you look at the latest winds, again, these are not the wind gusts, but these are mean wind speeds, and you see they are fairly strong out there, 30, 40 miles per hour across many areas, so not insane, strongest along the south coast, nowhere near as strong as Eowyn, but they will pick up, as I said, in that southeast corner over the coming hours. Really about those gusts at the moment, 40, 50, or if not 60 miles per hour. Classic kind of yellow weather warning territory. So still enough to cause disruption, but not the 80, 90, 100 miles per hour we were seeing on Friday. Except, so that far southeast corner could see it perking up through this evening. So do look at the latest weather warnings. Numerous warnings issued at the moment. If we do start, we've got a wind warning here for Northern Ireland that expires at 7 p.m. Again, looking just at generally some 40, 50, 60 mile per hour winds. Again, because of the ongoing recovery from Éowyn, it could cause more significant impacts. We've got another wind warning here. It's difficult to see exactly what this wind warning is covering, but again, many western areas, and we can see it's covering the southeast, northwest. It's pretty much a blanket warning covering a lot of the country, down the west predominantly, before we see a warning issued further eastwards through this evening. And again, it's for 40, 50, up towards maybe 60 or 70 in a few spots. Widespread rain warning issued for Wales, again looking at 1 to 2 inches of rain, expiring at midnight tomorrow. Another widespread rain warning issued here for much of England and Wales, expiring at 6 a.m. tomorrow. And again, we're looking at inch widely, up to 2 inches in a few spots. And then we got this wind warning issued in the far east. Now, this is for that system overnight tonight from 10 p.m. until 7 a.m. So not a long period of time, but it's for a brief spell of strong winds moving northeastwards from the south coast on Sunday evening. Again, 55 to 65 miles per hour, maybe up to 80, which again, compared to Éowyn, isn't that significant, but compared to what we sort of usually see in the far southeast, it is very strong. Of course, with a lot of high densely populated areas, even just a small period of very strong winds causing a bit of disruption will affect a lot of people. So at the moment, medium impact, very low likelihood. So there is definitely scope for this to be moved to an amber warning. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's this portion across eastern areas. Into Sunday, into Monday, now got a lot of those same warnings issued, and then into Tuesday, still got a blanket wind warning issued. It comes into force 6 a.m. tomorrow until 6 a.m. on Tuesday. Again, looking at 50, quite widely up to 60 or 70 near the coasts. And as I said, later on in the week, it may stay gusty Wednesday, Thursday, but as we head into the following weekend, it should turn much drier as high pressure does start to build in. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, you can see the big weather front associated with the storm Herminia is now moving in. And then look at that system in the far southeast corner arriving. Torrential precipitation as we see this small-scale low developing in the main flow. And it could have some exceptionally strong gusty winds within it. It does move through very quickly, but for a period of time could cause significant disruption. Beyond that, we go into a very blustery and showery pattern in from the west, and it continues to stay very unsettled through much of Monday. But gone are the persistent bands of rain, a lot more in the way of convection and showers. The centre of Hermenia eventually clears through, gusty, as I said, into Tuesday, but slowly Tuesday into Wednesday, we see a bit of a lull before we see potentially a channel low developing there on Wednesday. Again, showing some very heavy rain across the far south coast, but at the moment we'll keep an eye on its positioning as other runs take it much further southwards, so don't impact us at all. And then later on the week, yes, we still see some weather fronts try to push in, but if we do look at the mean sea level pressure, we can see high pressure is starting to nudge up from the south, 1,030 millibars compared to the lowering pressure we're seeing at the moment. We're going to be down to kind of 960, 970 by this evening. You can see that small scale low there in that southeast corner. That is what could cause those significant issues overnight tonight. Now, if you look at the wind gusts, they're picking up quite a lot at the moment, 50, 60 through the rest of this afternoon. And then look at the far southeast corner, that 70, maybe 80 mile per hour, little slot clearing through there. Again, don't take these numbers too literally for that little system, because it could really amp up in very short space of time. So it is one of those where it's going to be very much a nowcast event, but I just want to warn you that something severe could occur, but it also could be a bit of a non-event depending on what happens, because it is such a small-scale system. There is a lot of uncertainty when it comes to its development. It's nowhere near the size of any of the other main storms we've got at the moment. Beyond that, still seeing very gusty winds, and potentially could see a period of 60, 70 along coastal areas through Monday afternoon, and quite widely 40 to 50 inland there through Monday evening. And eventually all clearing into the middle of the week. Still some stronger winds around those southern and southwestern coastal areas, 40 to 50 miles per hour. But eventually later on in the week, again, could be strong in the far southwest. with that channel low. But as I said, a lot of uncertainty in its positioning, so again, don't take these too literally. And then beyond that, it slowly starts to die down, tries to see strong winds come in from the northwest, but as I said, high pressure is building back in, and it should slowly turn it drier as we start February. If you look at the temperatures, cold this afternoon, only 3 or 4 degrees in some spots, but it is slowly turning milder from the southwest, but still remaining fairly chilly. Into Monday afternoon, still cold, 5 to 8 degrees. Again, with a lot of rain, wind around, it is going to feel like proper wintry conditions out there. And then slowly into Tuesday, not much of a diurnal range, and we do see temperatures once again not getting much above the mid to high single digits. Into Wednesday, it starts to turn a little bit chillier, even though it turns drier, starts to see a bit of inversion taking place. Cold or chilly upper air temperatures starts to allow those surface temperatures to fall, and then we start to see some quite harsh frost potentially later on this week. Only 5 to 7 degrees there on Thursday, and then another harsh frost there into Friday, the last day of January, as we do start to see that high pressure inversion taking over. Now, have looked at the latest CET, and we are still 1 degree below average for the time of year. So yeah, it does look like, unless we see something drastically shift for the rest of January, we are likely to see a colder than average winter month, something we've not seen in a few years. So yeah, going to be very interesting to see what the rest of January has in store. But it has had it all. It had a very cold start, a very stormy middle to final third, and potentially could end a little bit chilly into the final few days. Now, if you do go over to the longer range, as said, the longer range is starting to turn a little bit more interesting once again. Storm Herminia clearing through at the moment, remaining unsettled, and we see that little channel low developing. GFS takes it way far south, so not impacting us at all here. That's why I said don't take the UKV run too literally with that little system. Beyond that, though, we start to see high pressure building in. And instead of building right over the top of us, like some of the runs have over the past few days, it does nudge northwards and unlocks the door to easterly winds. Now, there isn't a massive cold pull to our east, but a cold pull nonetheless, and it does try to flow some very cold air our way, eventually into the longer term, but slowly the westerly winds fight back and break it down. But for a period of time, it does go cold, if not very cold, with those easterly winds trying to push in, and at least for eastern areas, it would be very chilly there into the longer range. Look at that, daytime temperatures not getting much above freezing in the east, and if you look at those dew points, look how cold that air is, proper, brutal Arctic air heading in from the east. So not fully developing into a beastly easterly, but gets very close and does still develop some very cold, chilly conditions there into the first full week of February. So yeah, interesting from the GFS today. GM does follow pretty similarly. Again, low pressure clearing to our south as we head later on this week. High pressure building in, ridging northwards, and it does attempt to pull an easterly in. By this stage, it's a bit more of a muddled pattern. There is this low that needs to clear first, but there is quite a substantial cold pool there ready to tap into, and that again would turn us very cold if that did occur. So again, need to keep a very close eye on that. So pretty similar. We did see this, as I said, about a week or two ago, sort of in the middle of the month. We did see a spell of a day or two where all the runs were showing easterly winds before it did back off and just turned into a more regular high pressure system, which did dominate sort of last week or early last week from the following weekend. So this could, as I said, come to nothing. But again, models are trying to push an easterly wind. It would be quite weird to see the models continually pushing an easterly wind and it never coming off at all this winter. So could this be that easterly that the models keep promising? Could it be arriving into early February? Now, if you compare to the ECMWF, just to finish the video, again, low pressure systems clearing to our south over the coming days. Eventually, later on, as we head into early February, that high pressure building towards Scandinavia, it struggles to pull off a full-blown easterly, but it does give it a go. We try to pull in an easterly wind, but that cold air never really gets out of Italy, Switzerland, and Germany. Stays in Eastern Europe and never gets to our shores. So it has a good go. It has an attempt at a Scandinavian high, but doesn't fully come off. So again, similar, but not quite there. Now, if you finish by looking at the latest ensembles, the last kind of 5 or 6 days of January does look pretty chilly especially for London. See temperatures hovering around average or below average. Frosts later on this week, and just generally daytime temperatures not getting much above that sort of 5 to 8 degree range, which is hovering around average for the time of year. So pretty chilly. High amount of precipitation, especially the next couple of days. But then look what happens into early February. We see this massive dispersal in runs, some very mild, quite a few around average, and there's maybe 5 or 6 very, very cold. And these are all developing high pressure, as we can see here, all are developing a big area of higher pressure, but it's all about the wind direction and what sort of air mass we'll be pulling in. This is also gets exemplified here from the dew points. Some runs into 7-8 degree dew points, others -10. -10 will be an easterly flow. Those +10 or +8 will be a southwesterly flow, and that makes all the difference to what we actually see, even though the pressure is still very similar. If we go back to the upper air temperatures, you see there's just lots of disbursement here. So yeah, we can't say for certain what we will see, but we do know it will be high pressure. You can see that with reducing precipitation. It's just some very cold runs starting to appear, which shows you that there is a little bit of a movement towards an easterly wind within the ensembles as well today, but no overwhelming signal yet. We need to be seeing at least a third to 50% going for that easterly before we start to say it has some real validity. And if we do have a look at the 2 meter temperatures, you can see this pretty well as well. Generally back towards average or even below average to end January, start February, and then kind of hovering around that 5 or 6 degree mark with some mild, but some equally very, very cold. Now, if you finish by looking at the ensembles for the ECMWF, it's broadly very similar. Chilly as we end January and start February. Lots of up and downs there into the first full week of February. Most average to slightly above average, but as I said, you can see those 5 or 6, maybe slightly more runs there into that first full week of February that go very, very cold, and that will be pulling in that full-blown easterly wind. So it's a similar kind of ratio there as the GFS has. Some confidence in it, but really it's just a scenario at this stage. And one to keep a close eye on. Of course, some of those runs here that are showing milder upper air temperatures around the freezing mark would still be chilly because of an inversion taking place and because the air is coming off the near constant with low dew points. So definitely a lot more of these runs would be cold or at least below average. But of course, if you're looking for proper snow and wintry conditions, you'd need those full-blown easterly winds, which would be those getting down to -8, -10 or -12. And you can see again a huge disbursement here within the 2 meter temperatures, some hovering not much above freezing, others up towards 10 degrees. But as I said, all are in pretty good agreement that high pressure will be dominating there for the first full week of February. So you're going to see a bit of a role reversal arriving later on this week. We're going to see the stormy conditions replaced by much drier settle conditions as we do see high pressure building. And so really flipping between the two extremes from exceptionally deep areas of low pressure to very strong high pressure, even a Scandinavian high. So yeah, big changes coming later on this week. But for the next few days, still need to contend with the stormy conditions. Of course, the risk of some more further disruption overnight tonight, especially in that southeast corner. So please do stay safe if you have got any plans later on, as it could get very wild. Yes, for only a short period of time, but very wild nonetheless. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see. There's a small risk of an amber warning being issued as well if the live data does really ramp it up. As I said, though, we'll wait and see, but I'll keep you updated over the coming days. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.